Hey, how's it going? It's Grant with the Garden of Eater, and in this video we're going to move our last metal stand out of the house into the garage, and that means we got to move yet even more high-end, high-grade caridina, fish, snails, and more. So now we got to thin the colonies out just a little bit, drain the tanks down to about an inch of water, and then slowly move them into Jaden's new stands in his room. But first, let's take one last look at these aquariums. Now to start it off, this first tank is one of our high-grade fancy red tiger tanks. We've already gone through and got rid of a lot of these shrimp, but you can see there's already babies popping up, and this tank is ready to be moved. And this is the fancy black tiger tank. There's of course a few red fancy tigers running amok in this aquarium. Also, this is overdue for a little culling, but these guys got plenty of room throughout the house. We have several different fancy tiger tanks that these guys could be moved into. Now this next tank is our Taiwan bee tank. It's mainly shadow pandas, but there are a few normal pandas and other Taiwan bees that come out of this tank as well. Now this is one of Shelby's 4.5 red galaxy tanks that are in the house. I say 4.5 because, well, one of the tanks is shared by our other fancy black tiger tank. So until I get those fancy black tigers out of there, she's only got 4.5 tanks, and they just had babies, so it's gonna be a while. But this is one of her nicer tanks, one of her originals, before we got any of the new blood at the past international contest. Now this is a tank that I'm very proud of. This is one of our orange-eyed yellow tiger project tanks. We've got a few really nice ones, a few culls running around, but for the most part, this is our nicer tank of the orange-eyed yellow tigers. And now, the good, the bad, this is definitely the ugly, and well, these are one of those tanks where for no reason at all, the algae just comes at us with vengeance. I didn't mind the algae for too long, but Shelby definitely had to have it out of there. It was gross, purple. I talked about it once before. However, Shelby tried to get it out of there. The shrimp are never really doing well in the tank. It just keeps coming back, so I think we're going to retire this tank, use the substrate for some immersed beds out back, and just start over all brand new from scratch with a new aquarium in this spot on the new rack. Now this was a small little JBJ Nano aquarium. It was, meant with a built-in filter and stuff like that. We took that out, put a little sponge filter in, but it's never really done that well for us. It's gone through cycles where the shrimp bred really well and then just not bred at all. And well, it's just not really worth the maintenance and keep up. And part of the reason why we're redoing this rack is so instead of having this little small bookshelf tank, we're going to throw in a full-size 10-gallon aquarium in this spot. This next tank is a shrimp we created from scratch. These are our red backline tie-tie bees, or red skunks to keep it short. We do have a few blue-black skunks in here as well, but for the most part, this tank does need a good amount of culling, and we do have the black skunks in 2 different tanks throughout the house, but this is our only red skunk tank, so I'm going to take a little bit better care of these guys moving forward. The good, the bad, the ugly. This is the bad and the ugly. This tank is just full of algae. Again, another problematic tank. I don't understand why these 2 tanks, other than the fact that they're in front of a window, makes a lot of sense, but this window really doesn't get any sun at all. It's a north-facing window with a chimney that blocks the east sunrise, so it really doesn't get much sun at all. And then there's a giant weed of a tree in our front yard that blocks out any other sunlight from getting in. So the fact that these 2 tanks have algae makes sense that it's the window, but it doesn't make sense if you knew what window it was. I'm just going on, but we had our black tiger galaxies in here and they just didn't do very well. We pretty much lost all of them. I tried to move them into a different tank, but yeah, out of all the tanks on this rack, this is one of the 3 problematic tanks. These guys, however, have been with us for a very long time, maybe 8 years now. This is one of our original crossbreeding projects. We used the shadow pandas that we originally had on the rack, crossed with Aurora tigers, and this is like 8 to 10 different generations of work. These are more of like the ones, the culls, that I just kind of let them do their thing, but from these we have made several different lines of shrimp. Lots of crossbreeding projects on this rack. This tank is no different. We crossed some of our green tigers, which are Aurora, crossed with tangerine tiger, and then crossed in some orange-eyed blue tiger genetics in order to try and make some orange-eyed green tigers. This is just a really hard process, a lot of culling involved. I'm not sure why these guys are just all the ugly ones. I'm sure all the pretty ones are hiding in the back. This tank is just a mixed pinto tank. We get zebras, spotted redhead pintos, and then also the red belly pintos. A lot of red steel culls come out of this tank as well. Can't really see all the shrimp because it is full of weeping moths. Now, this is the last problematic tank that we have. So the bad, the ugly, the rest is all good from here on out. But these were the fancy tiger, some low grade. Definitely did not have pure fancy tiger genetics. There's definitely some tangerine tigers in there. So I never really cared about these. Someone came to me and wanted a bunch of different mixed Caridina shrimp, and I offed this tank a long time ago. I just haven't put in anything in here because we knew that we were going to be moving these tanks, and I might tear this one down altogether. Now this is the original green tiger tank. We crossed yellow King Kongs instead of tangerine tigers with Aurora blue tigers in hopes of getting more green shrimp. This project is a hit or a miss. Some days the shrimp look green, some days the shrimp look orange. This is why we never sell anything but green tiger culls and not any high grade green tigers because they just don't hold their color. Also in this tank is the Madagascar lace plant that we started from seed. I'm going to move this sucker into the Madagascar rainbow tank where it can really fill out and grow to its full potential. And this is the backup green tiger tank. We had like at one point 5 or 6 green tiger tanks going at once to try and get the green refined, but in all of the tanks, no matter what our efforts were, it was basically the same result. This is on a dark brown substrate. They tend to have a little bit more greenish color in this tank than they do on the black. However, there's so much green Taiwan moss in the tank that I don't really think the substrate color matters. Now this tank was supposed to be some pure Taiwan bees. However, whenever we get brand new shrimp, we always breed them out for at least 1 or 2 generations to make sure that everything lines up and they're, exactly what they say they are, genotype and not just phenotype. Well, these guys are definitely not pure Taiwan bees. There's a lot of pinto stripes and wrong markings that are just throwing these off, but they are still beautiful blue Tai bees. This tank, however, was supposed to be blue Tai bees, and these guys have been refined a little bit. You can see there are some blue pintos running around, some zebras, and some spot heads. This is a really nice tank moving forward. I need to refine it just a little bit, but these guys are stunners. Now this tank's a little bit different. I don't know if there's anybody else out there working on it. I'm not in the whole shrimp circuit around the world, so I don't know. But this is our pink steel tank. You really can't see these guys. There's a ton of moss, just like the last tank. So give me a second. Let me move all this moss out of the way. It's probably gonna get a little dusty, but let's see these pink steels. So of course now the water quality has gone down drastically. Visibility is not as far as it used to be, but you can definitely tell that there is pink coloration here. We have some normal pintos as well as some red steels in the aquarium as well, but those will be moved out before this tank is moved into the new room, and this will be our main focus for the pink steels moving forward. Now every rack should have a cull tank. This rack's no different. This is the cull of all cull tanks for this rack. If I ever see one that is, running around one of the higher grade tanks and I just don't know what to do with one of the culls, it goes in this aquarium. You never know what's gonna come out and pop out of these guys. However, these blue shrimp swimming around, these are blue Tai bees. However, as they grow up and they mature, these will all turn a solid black. It's just, this is a cull tank, so these are all low grade, low pigments. And as they mature, that's just what happens with the green and the blues, they'll turn black. And this is another ugly tank, but I wouldn't say it's a problematic tank. But Lucas Bretz, if you could come get all this mulm out of this tank for me, it would be greatly appreciated. I don't like the mulm. I know you do. I know a lot of people out there do. But this is a prime example of why we don't want to add botanicals into our tanks. These tanks are like one of the first ones that we had set up where we were dumping a bunch of botanicals, Indian almond leaves mainly, but the buildup over time has left just this giant pile of mulm, and it is almost impossible, even after cleaning out the filters and everything like that, doing 2 water changes on the tank. I just can't clear this thing up. I'm gonna have to do a deep gravel vacuum to get all that mulm out of there, but there's like smaller shrimp than I really want to deal with in the tank right now, so hopefully I can move this tank into a spot where I can vacuum it all out, move the shrimp easily into one of the other aquariums, and make this tank brand new again, because I hate this mulm in this dirty tank. Now this right here is our smallest shrimp tank in the entire house. It's one of those small little Shrimp King or Dennerli tanks. I think it's like a 3 liter or like a 2.3 gallon tank. I don't know, it's tiny. And somehow from the shrimp contest back in Dallas, we couldn't find a home for them, but we threw them in this little tiny aquarium, and there's at least 2 or 3 different batches of babies and 2 females pregnant, ready to go again. So this little tank is gonna have to get set up and put up onto like the little bookshelf corner tanks that we're gonna be doing, but it will not have a spot in the new rack. Alright, bear with me. This is the final row, and these guys are the original zebra ghost bee colony that we started and crossbred ourselves using Aurora, blue tigers, and the ghost bees and the tie bees that we originally talked about. It was a triple cross, but after many years of work, we now have 4 or 5 different aquariums of just zebra ghost bees going, and they all started from this colony right here. And now, for the fastest Caridina shrimp in all the land, the cheetahs. I'm just kidding, these guys are actually not fast at all. I've actually caught all of them and moved into the tank. I don't know why. They were the most docile, slowest, like they were just, hey, let me get into the net for you. I heard you're moving us into a new tank. Joke's on them, they went from a 20 to a 10, but yeah, these guys show a lot of color, purple, iridescence when they have the light shining on them, and not a lot of culling to them, and yeah, they're a great shrimp. And now, a little lesson. Shrimp will climb. They find the littlest, tiniest cracks. They are interested, curious little critters. They'll climb from one tank to another. I'm not sure, but I've had shrimp climb and make it on quite an adventure and end up in tanks that I could not believe was possible. This tank, however, not that big of a surprise. The green tigers, or the mixed tigers from the tank over, climbed into the red pinto tank, and well, before I could find the intruder, it got pregnant and had its own little batch of babies in the tank. So I started a tank all on its own. These are the green tigers crossed with pintos. So now I promise you, shrimp, fish, and snails. If you want snails, you can go find them. They're everywhere. However, this is the first fish tank. We've got some of Shelby's Mechasplendids, Gadeids. We've got some orange laser cories, as well as some longfin and citrus, but they never come out, and I can't remember if this is the reds or the albinos, but in one of these tanks is either or. Now, Shelby just informed me that those were the red longfin and citrus, so these must be the albino longfin and citrus, as well as some Danios, and we had other plans for this tank, but it's going into the bedroom with Shelby's other fish, so it'll be turned into some type of breeding fish tank in the future. Now, this is the last tank on the rack. Of course, we've got to have some shrimp in it. There is some blue diamonds running around in here. as well as some thread fin rainbows, and then I have my Trifisciatus apistos in here. I had to add in a hide. I didn't realize that all of the Hygrostricta, Hygrophilia, had just melted away, so there's no place for the apistos to really swim around and hide and do their apisto thing. But these are definitely a project fish that I would like to breed in the future. I think I'm going to clear a spot for these in the hallway. So that's going to be it for this video. I don't think you guys really want to see all the grunt work of draining and catching all the shrimp and everything like that. However, this means that we are closing in on finishing up Jaden's room. That will be the next video. So make sure you subscribe, turn on those notifications, and we'll see you in the next one.